And hello, everyone, and good morning. I hope everybody's doing great on this Thursday morning. Welcome to the marketing virtual event with the Fayetteville Public Library. And of course, I'm Mollie Watkins with Comprehensive Consulting Solutions. And a shout out to the library and all of you for attending today, for the library for having these great events for small business owners, and for you for attending this event to learn more about marketing. So thanks again for joining us. And here's a little bit about the agenda of what we're going to do today. So just a welcome and introduction. What is marketing? What are the 4 P's and the 7 P's? And we'll get to that. And is marketing important? And finish the event up with marketing resources. So my name is Mollie Watkins. I am an accredited business consultant with Comprehensive Consulting Solutions. I help small businesses with their small business puzzle. So we work with a variety of business owners, from CPAs and doctors and attorneys to painters and movers, musicians, artists, and so forth. And even though they're in different industries, they all have the same small business puzzle. So again, that's marketing, recruiting, operations, business planning, and so forth. So again, thank you for being here today. Marketing is a very important part of running a business. So excited to present this information to you. Please ask questions in chat. We will have sections throughout the presentation for questions. So please put those in chat as we go on. And we are also going to have a very interactive session, just to make sure that, everybody's engaged and we're having fun, right? Because we've got to have fun while we learn. So to kind of start off, I'm going to go ahead, and I believe Cassie is doing the poll question. So I'm going to pass it over to her to kind of get a feel. So she's already got it popped up. Thank you, Cassidy and Kelly. And if everybody would just kind of vote, if you have a chance, of what is marketing. And, we've got some options here: promotion of a product, communicating with a target market, bringing buyers and sellers together, storytelling, or not sure. That's why I'm here. Hashtag just saying. And sorry, everybody, too. I've got a little bit of allergies from this fun weather. So if I sound like Kermit the Frog, I apologize, but I am pollinated. So we'll give it just a minute and continue on with our event. Thank you. Okay, it looks like we've got a couple people voting here, so we'll give it just one more second. All right, so it looks like it was kind of split between communication with the target market to influence buying decisions and storytelling. So great job for those folks that attempted this. Actually, all the answers are correct. So we're going to kind of go through that in just a second. So great job on that. So what is marketing, right? Marketing is storytelling. How do we convey what we are trying to say about our brand? How do we communicate our message, right? A brand, is kind of a brand promise, right? What do we tell our clients that they can expect from us? How do we communicate what we offer? What is our purpose? What kind of experience do we represent to our customers, right? What kind of content do we provide to our customers? Also, what about, in terms of a strategy? What is our marketing strategy as a new business owner, right? Those folks on the line today. How do I communicate these things, right? How do I influence decisions with others, right? And their buying choices. And that's what marketing is about. In the broadest definition, marketing brings buyers and sellers together. Very simply put, putting folks in the same place to take advantage of each other's services, right? Or to buy or purchase those. So that is the most simplistic definition of marketing. So let's kind of dig in a little more on what this means. And you're going to see some definitions here that we're going to go through. So that first one, again, with marketing, the one thing I want everyone to think about is there are a lot of terms. There's a lot of fancy language sometimes, right? And with marketing, it's knowing every word, and all these different things are not as important as developing a plan, knowing what we're going to do, and executing. So that is the biggest thing with marketing. Sorry about that. Now you see here with our very long definition from the American Marketing Association. Marketing is the activities, set of institutions and processes for creating, communicating, delivering, and exchanging offerings that have value for customers, clients, partners, and society at large. What that means is bringing buyers and sellers together. How do we communicate our brand? What is our process? How do we deliver the message, right? Where do they see it? And what do we exchange, right? What is the price for that product or service? Now, in the word marketing, market is the root word of marketing. So in a market, it's just a group of potential customers who need your product or service and also have a willingness and are able to buy. Because if we have a product or service and no one can afford it, right, within our target market, that may not be the best, right, product or service to market to consumers. So they not only have to need it or want it, right, but they also have to be able and willing to buy. Now, this is where a lot of questions come from a lot of clients with marketing mix. So, the marketing mix is, here's another fancy definition, right? The planning, execution, the concept of pricing, promotion, distribution of ideas, services. Now, marketing, and we're going to go through this process, has many facets. It has many elements that can be placed in categories. For some of y'all that are familiar, that have maybe learned about marketing in the past, the 4 Ps, right? That's what when I was studying this and first starting my marketing journey, 20 years ago, this was one of the things that, we learned, right? The 4 Ps, and we're going to go through that today. The 4 Ps are product, price, place, and promotion. Now, that to most is, well, it's only literally 4 categories. Seems pretty simple. And it can be, right? It's just all those elements of marketing. What do we offer? How much does it cost? How is it distributed? How do we get it there, right, to the end consumer? And where do we sell it, right? So is it on a marketplace such as Amazon, or is it more in a local brick and mortar store, or is it on an e-commerce site, social media, right? Any of these places could be a place. And then the last one is the promotion. And that promotion is how we communicate our message to our target market. Sorry about that. Those allergies and the pollen, I'm telling you. So now in the 1980s, there were some other folks that came along and they revised this model. And there were folks that followed that also made some small revisions. So the modern 7 Ps are going to be those same first 4: product, price, place, and promotion. But also we've added people, physical evidence, and process. And what does that mean, right? So we've kind of talked about the first 4 a little bit, and we're going to get into these much deeper. But people is everyone that has to deal with your brand. How are they communicating? If you have salespeople in the field, if you have a brick and mortar, when people walk in, how are they greeted? What is the script to take an order? Everything about our process. Now, also, you could include in here, or you could put it in another area. Remember, overlap with this, and did I put it in the exact right section? Don't be as concerned about that as you're building, your marketing plan, and who are we going to market to? How are we going to market to them? And is our messaging, effective, right? Are we communicating the right way with our target? Now with that people, that's all that interaction, but you could also add in process, right? That's how do we interact with everyone? How do they, when they come to the website, can they buy there, right? How does that work? What does that process look like? And physical evidence is one of those where you can see this as packaging in some of the tools online. And really physical evidence is what they're left behind, some sort of tangible evidence of something of your brand, right? So if you go to the ice cream shop and they give you a flyer, that can be your physical evidence, right? The logo, the colors, the messaging on that packaging. If you buy something, you're left with the packaging, right? And sometimes those are not easy to get into. So packaging, right? The ease of use, all of these things go along with those 7 Ps. So the 4 Ps and the 7 Ps, when we're thinking about marketing for all the folks on this session, and we're thinking about what we sell, our product or service, the marketing mix is covering every aspect of that from creation all the way to distribution and delivery to the client. And again, we'll get into those in a little more detail here in just a little while. Marketing strategy, a lot of questions comes with, okay, we got a strategy, we got a tactic, we got a goal, we got an objective, right? So easiest way to put this is strategy is, what are we going to do? What's our plan? So for example, we, as a new business owner, first 6 months, by that 6th month, we want to generate, $20,000 in revenue from our widgets. A widget can be anything that you want that to be. Now with me and strategy, I like to be a little more specific. You could actually look at it as a goal or an objective, right? Because it is more specific and it is actually saying when we're going to do it and its timetable. So it's not just, hey, we're going to grow. Acquisition. You could say we want to, retain customers better once you start growing, right? Or we want to increase our social media presence or online presence. All of those could be overarching strategies. Sorry. And then we could actually back into the next one, which is tactics. Tactics are, what do we do to get to that goal or that strategy, right? How do we accomplish our strategy? And that's what those tactics are. Tactics are the little bitty steps in between that get us to that long-term overarching strategy. And we'll get into some examples of that here soon too. So again, marketing strategy, overall, bigger, broader picture, tactics, those little things that are going to lead us to our end result within marketing. And competitive advantage. This is one of, I don't know if some of y'all had joined the business planning session that we had last month that is also recorded. You can go to the library's YouTube and access that and listen to it. But competitive advantage is why you are better. And when we're thinking about marketing and we're thinking about how are we going to communicate our brand and influence decisions, right? Promote our service or product or tell a story, right? Then we've got to communicate why we're better, because if some other company has a similar product, why should they buy it, or service? Why should they buy it from us? Now, competitive advantage, what makes you better? That could be it's better quality. That could be it's a superior product. That could be service, right? That could be after the sale, some sort of free guide, right? Or a download. Or that could be, after the sale, we don't just never talk to you again, right? So I highly suggest that we don't do that. But as part of our competitive advantage, or after the sale, after they purchase from us, we are in constant communication with them, right? With constant touch points to continually remind them of who we are and how we can help them. So competitive advantage, if you haven't taken a chance to really think what do I do best and why do I do it better, I would highly recommend sitting down and going through that exercise. And again, utilizing that business planning session that we did last month that's on YouTube, because this is a very, very important aspect of our marketing. If you see the same, product or service, think about yourself. What makes you buy from one person, right? So there are, ladies, I have several friends that love their purses. They're high quality, right? They're paying more for a brand name, right? So there are things where quality and branding, right, which you're going to get into in just a second, all make it more of a competitive advantage because we associate that brand with a certain characteristic or their brand promise, right? So think about in depth, why is your product or service better than your competition? Very important. Now, selective perception is one of the most important marketing concepts to me. And what this says in fancy terms, right? Again, these fancy terms, don't worry about the fancy terms, is we see what we want based on our perception and based on our experiences that have formed the way that we see the world. So just because when we're in marketing, we think, okay, our target's this, I'm that age, right? And for example, and I like this, so therefore the target market's going to love it. No, because the target market may not see it the same way you do based on their experiences, exposures, and perception of what has occurred to them in their life. So with marketing and this selective perception, the reason why I wanted to hit on this is make sure that you tell your target customers what you want them to know. So if you're a brand new business, you're going to have to communicate that right to get awareness in the community and start building interest, part of the marketing cycle. However, the one thing is keep in mind is they may have a different perception, and what you say to them is completely construed in a different way. So our big thing with that selective perception is make sure that we tell them what we're trying to communicate and take into consideration that some people are not going to see it the same way as you do. Now, market research, this is probably a very common term that a lot of folks have heard. That is literally fancy definition. This is literally going in and researching competition, the industry, which would have probably done, you would have done that as part of your business plan, or you can do it as part of this as well. And that is researching and uncovering objectively, right? Honestly, assessing the situation in a very honest and objective perspective to identify opportunities. Just even within your competitors, you may notice something that they don't do well or that they do really well, right? Or maybe within the industry, you notice that there's an opportunity for this feature, right? Oh man, none of these services offer this. I'm going to offer it, right? Helps you with that, competitive advantage. Now, target market is a specific group of consumers and businesses that would benefit from your product and service. And sorry, pollen, I'm drinking water like crazy to get rid of this fun pollination. Sorry if that's loud. I know I hate this pollen, y'all. I'm so done with it. So a target market is the people that would benefit from your service or product. Now, doesn't mean that the masses, it could be the masses. So if you think about Walmart, they have products and they have target segments for each product, right? You may not have that big of an offering. So maybe you do have this service that goes with this segment and this service that goes with this one. But if you marketed to the masses, it may not be an efficient use of your money because you're not hitting the folks that want, need, and have the willingness and ableness to buy your product. So that target market is identified within our research. Who are we targeting our messaging to? Who are we trying to influence with our decision? Or, their decision to purchase. A brand, this is something that gets a ton of questions in terms of what is branding, right? What does that mean? And a brand is just a name, a term, a design. When you think of a brand, for example, highly recognized brands across the world, McDonald's, the Golden Arches, right? That is a brand. Even if you don't eat there, those are Golden Arches. Excuse me. Also, other, service products like Allstate's a Good Hands, right? They are well known for their good hands. And you see that you may not be a customer of theirs, but you recognize the brand, right? So with branding, it's how we communicate our messaging, what we're known for. And if we look at branding, they do have a distinct symbol or trademark or anything that we recognize as theirs, but they also usually stand for something, right? So is starting a new business, what are you trying to communicate with your brand? What is your brand promise? When someone, not initially, this takes time, right? You're not just going to put it out there and everyone knows, but initially you're building that, this is who I am and this is what we're about, that awareness, right? And then a brand over time becomes recognizable. So when they think, for example, if you think about the McDonald's Arches, right? That brand, you think about it, some, they're trying to get more into healthy options, right? But what they're known for. And so that is their branding. For your brand and for your service, how do you want people to know you? How do you, what do you want them to think about? And that is done through part of that research. And that is also an ever-changing mechanism. Things change, right? People's behaviors, perceptions, all these things change. So with our brand, it's one of those things where Initially, we're still trying to figure things out. And with marketing, it's a big trial and error, right? So we've got to learn, we've got to try, we've got to execute to see what parts of our brand, our messaging, how we're communicating, where we're locating that message, right? Where we're placing that message, where we're distributed, our delivery, all these things become part of our brand. So just keep that in mind. What is your brand, right? What are you trying to communicate with that brand? Something to think about. Now, traditional advertising, this is something that many of us grew up with and probably learned or I've heard of over the years, right? Traditional advertising is more of the radio ads, the TV ads, newspapers. Does not mean that there is not, that's not an appropriate market campaign for specific businesses, right? There's all of these different things that we're going to touch on today have a different purpose and are very useful in addition to other marketing buckets. And we'll get into that. Marketing is about the whole of the parts. There is no magic bullet. Many years ago, there may have been, right, that, you could do a mail out to 50,000 people and our return at 1%, you can do the math, right? We would be selling what we need to in a month. Well, now in today's environment, that is, depending on the business, that may not be enough to generate the activity that leads to the revenue, right? That takes care of the business. So the one thing with traditional advertising is think about it as one-way communication. If I put a newspaper ad out, you can't communicate with me, right? If I'm on the radio. Now with today and these internet radio shows, there are some, of course, a little different than what traditional advertising meant back in the day. But just a normal radio, we're not talking about internet radio, just you're driving and you listen to normal radio and they give an ad. You can't really communicate. Now they may give a phone number, right? But you can't say, oh, thanks, like you could on social media or a blog, right? And that's where this next one comes in, online marketing. Again, fancy way to say everything online. Now, there are specific terms that go within this. Don't get bogged down. That is for a much more in-depth marketing session. Sorry. So we're not going to get bogged down into all of the different variations within online marketing, but just know it's anything within electronic devices. So that could be literally our website. That could be search engine optimization, social media marketing. This could be blogs. I mean, video blogs, which are, blogs. All of these things are online marketing. So we're going to get into some tactics here in a minute, and we're going to get into some stats. So the one thing in today's world is, like I said, traditional advertising may not hit our target or alone, right? In addition to other things, it will. But if we're just starting, we may not be able to afford, we're going to do a big radio ad or we're going to do a big newspaper ad, right? We may need something that's more time consuming rather than cost, which is something like online marketing, providing content for our website, providing communication or messaging on social media that's relevant to our target market. So online marketing is something that's newer. When you look it up online, I think they said the first reference was 2004. Isn't that wild? Is that right? Is that when dial-up was here? I don't know. So pretty funny, right? But that's online marketing. Everything that is done online. So when you see an ad, when you see a banner, when something pops up, right? When you're on social media, when you interact with a brand, all of these things are online marketing. Social media. Now, some of the experts will put this in a separate space. Again, don't worry about the terms, just kind of have an idea of, hey, this is what this means, right? The specifics, again, are for a much more in-depth marketing session. So social media, most of us are familiar with that. And that is, of course, our Facebooks, our Twitters, our TikToks, our Snapchats, you name it, Pinterest, all of these different ways for people to share, communicate, message, do post, and they're there to communicate with people, their friends, their family. But guess what? Brands also communicate with these people. And with some of my clients, some of our best performing campaigns are done on social media, as well as other, depending on the business, right? But as a brand new business, one of the first things that they like to take advantage of is social media. So because that is something free, that is just a time, just using your time in terms of developing that content and posting. Again, sorry. So with social media, think about all those things that when you're on your space and, you're sitting down to having a cup of coffee and you hop on Facebook. What do you see on Facebook? Well, you see your family, you see your friends, you may see some coworkers, you see some brands, some Facebook groups, right? All communicating information and all to an audience that is listening. So with the online and the social, those are areas as new as a lot of my brand new startup businesses. We see those folks absolutely taking advantage of those spaces. And we'll get into those more in just a second. So again, those are our definitions. And now we are going to get into the 4 P's of marketing. And this is a section that is a little, it seems like, oh gosh, what is this? But if you take it in small bits, and again, getting overlap or the term here, or, oh, well, maybe this is supposed to be, this is my branding message. And oh, well, what about, no, don't worry about that, right? This is marketing 101. We're trying to get an understanding of how do we market our business, right? And how do we communicate that message? And as I had said earlier, this was developed by a marketer back in the day, and his name was actually E.J. McCarthy back in the 60s, the 4 Ps. His book was Basic Marketing and Managerial Approach. So if you'd like to check that out. In 1981, Bernard Booms and Mary Jo Bittner, which are professors, actually came up with, because this 4 Ps was more focused on products, because think about in the 60s, most of the marketing was for products. There weren't a lot of services, right? Unless it was like milk delivery, you know what I mean? So it's mostly focused on products. And even though milk delivery is still a product, right, being delivered, even though that was a service. So, but that's all they had right then, you know what I mean? So it's a little different. As it evolved in the 4 Ps, they're looking at, okay, what about services? Services encompass a lot more, in terms of when you look at them, because a product could provide everything you need, but a service, part of receiving that service is the journey of that service in terms of how was I communicated with, how interactive was the brand with me, what message did they communicate with me? So that process and the people are a big part of service marketing and marketing a service. So that's where the 7 Ps, they came. Now there's been variations, and other folks, of course, have made, updates or revisions to this formula. So we're looking at the modern, what you would call the modern 4 Ps and 7 Ps. So this is a definition from the American Marketing Association. And this presentation does have links, and this will be sent out by, of course, Kelly Cassidy, when our favorable library team will be sending this out so that you have access to these links. So just in general, what are the 4 Ps and why do I care? Right? Let's just talk about it from basic. Number 1, what is your product? Why should I buy it, right? What does it have? What are the features? What are the benefits? Does it have some really cool technology? Is it a, technical design, right? What about it makes it good? It could be tangible stuff. It could be intangible. It could be the feeling that they get, right? So for example, people may buy something not because they need or want it, but because of other needs, right? And that could be a fulfillment, or they feel special. So what does our product provide? And a lot of business owners think of this of, okay, I have a product and I'm going to sell the product. Well, that's great. You have a product or a service. But with this, what problem are you solving for your client or end consumer? Because sometimes that messaging, remember that selective perception, that messaging does not get communicated to the person that needs to be hearing it. And so with our, we're talking about our product and service, let's make sure we tell them all the benefits and all the features and why we're better. And all of those bundles of benefits, right, kind of add up to make up our product or service and why it's different. Now, a price, that's price, right? How much are we charging? We've done research, right, in our industry analysis as part of our marketing plan to develop pricing strategies. Pricing is one of those where it can be a more complicated aspect of that. Now, if yours is just a service and excuse me, it's not perishable, it's one of those things where, it's always available, right? That's going to be a different pricing point than if we look at something that may perish, right? It may be more inexpensive, but like a restaurant, that food's going to go bad. So we have to think about, when we think about price, of we've got to cover our expenses. And I'm sure, for most of us, right, we would like to be profitable, and so to gain that profit, we've got to make money off of our pricing. So we want to price it appropriately. Now, if we're charging a higher rate, again, it's going to come back to what are we offering that's better. And maybe we are the low cost leader, right? Someone that's known for lower costs. Some of the brands in this area are known for that, right? So those brands that are known for lower costs, you associate affordable prices, but there doesn't mean there's not a place for brands that charge higher prices because they're giving you something extra, right? Or in your mind, it's worth more. So just something to think about. Place or distribution. This is one that kind of throws a lot of folks off, because traditionally a place would have been a physical location or a brick and mortar location. Today, that is not the case. So when you're thinking about your product or service, where am I going to sell this at? Is it on my website? If I don't have a physical location, is it on my website? Am I going to be on Amazon, right? Am I on Etsy, on a marketplace? Am I going to do it through social media? How am I selling this? Am I going to do it through salespeople, right? There's so many different options for this, and what sales channels and so forth. And also within this limited 4 Ps, when we look at this in terms of place, it could also be, how do we get our product to the end consumer? How do we get it manufactured, right? Where's the packaging? All of these different things go into how we get it to the end consumer. So if it's product, it's going to have some more steps, right, than compared to a service, which may be a more simple distribution or delivery process. But as part of that, what is how does the customer get it? How's the online process? So when we look at the 4 Ps, a lot of these questions that we're reviewing are going to go into these. And when we get to the 7, we've broken it out a little more in depth. So now promotion. This is according to the Association of National Advertisers. They're putting promotion as a specific type of marketing. They're putting the other types of all of our other things that we have to do into place or distribution. Now, for some folks, this can be a little confusing. So this is the American Marketing Association's definition. This is actually Oxford College of Marketing. From my research preparing for this was one of the big things that I wanted to find, was something that really explained this, so that when you're going through this on your own and going back through this, you're like, what was that again? Because this can be confusing. It's a lot of different terms and sometimes a lot of fancy language that's just really simple, right? If we kind of look at it in the broadest concept, remember, bringing buyers and sellers together. So that's marketing. With a product, again, we've already kind of covered this, but this touches on the Oxford College of Marketing, goes into kind of guarantees, warranties, online support, maybe a friendly app, right? Of what makes us better and what need are we trying to fulfill, like we talked about, but also what problem are we trying to solve? What is our product or service? What need does it meet, right? What is it trying to help the person with? It may not be as simple as the example here that says, if you need transport buying a car, right? It could be something much more complex, right? So if we're buying like a fancy purse, that is how we feel, right, when we buy the purse, how we feel about the purse, the quality, the brand. So it's also the ability, if there's an issue, right, because of that pricing point, we're going to get it resolved quickly. So there are things that go along with your product and service. Don't just think about what here's the offering. This is what I have. Do you want to buy it? It's, here's a problem. So for example, if you're a, you're a small business and you don't know how to market, your problem is not knowing how to market. Comprehensive Consulting Solutions can have a solution for that. We can help you develop a marketing plan, right? Other examples of that is, you see the as seen on TV stuff, right? Those have really hit over the years. of things that have a benefit. They solve a problem that maybe no one was thinking about in prior, right? They didn't think about a Snuggie. Those are awesome, right? But these are things, just for example, that did solve a problem, right? It solved a problem of having to wrap a blanket, even though that sounds kind of, why wouldn't we just want to wrap the blanket? Well, to some, this was a product that solved a problem, right? So think of that out of the box and don't just think, okay, I've got this widget, right? Or I've got this lamp, and this is what I have. No, what problem does it solve? So the lamp is going to provide light with a touch lamp. It's going to provide easy access, and I don't have to click a switch, right? Even though that sounds crazy, but that's the problem it's solving. So think about this a little more in depth than, okay, it's just a product, right? Price, again, I love how they say this with the Oxford College of Marketing. It's the only revenue generating element. It's amazing, right? It's true. The rest of these things, we're developing a product or spending money, right? We're doing research. All these things take time and money. Price is one of things that for us that we make money off of. What are we charging the consumer or the business? If we're, B2B, business to business, how much are they being charged? And also, as a for-profit company or even as a non-for-profit, they're looking for an operational surplus. So how do we make money in this, or how do we get a surplus for the nonprofit view? Is we've got to cover our cost and make sure that that product is bringing in the proper funds, right? Because initially, yes, starting a business, savings, financing, it takes time to make money. A lot of business, you look at it statistically, it could be year 2 to 3 before we're actually making a profit. So how are we going to survive that time? Now that goes back to the business planning process. So again, think about with your pricing, how are we going to make sure it's competitive? The people that our target market can afford it and are willing to buy it, right? And also that long term that we are going to, or hopefully more short term, right, make a profit off of this. So that's pricing. Now with these others placed, we went into this in depth. This is more of where do I buy, right? And distribution, supply chain, depending on what type of product you have, how does it get to that person? Promotion, this is of course what we're, a big thing of what people think of marketing is promoting our product. Yes, it is promoting our product, but it's also developing the specifics of our product in terms of, yes, just not our product, where we're going to distribute it, how we're going to deliver it, what are our processes, what is left over from the product right to the end consumer. So with promotion is, how do I get this great shiny widget, right, whatever that is, and get it to the folks that want it or need it, and also have the willingness and ableness to afford it. Now, the one thing that I really liked about this is it hit on kind of the buyer journey. And with marketing, again, not for our simplified marketing 101 today, but for, future more, we get into more probably specifics or, so forth, is with the buyer journey, we're trying to do generate interest, awareness, and of course a desire or that action to buy. And I love how they mention that is why we're here, to promote our messaging, influence buying decisions, right? And different types of marketing, which we are not going to be able to dive deeply into today, is some are more for, hey, this is my brand, right? Generating awareness. Hey, I recognize them, right? Others are more for, hey, this is someone that's interested, we may need to talk to later. And then others are literally, we're trying to get a lead generation activity today, right? So they're hitting a button, they're clicking something, they're calling something that generates that person to call you instead of you having to call them, right? So we're pulling them in. So with promotion, this is where a lot of the confusion comes in. Marketing is marketing. Everything that we are talking about is marketing. Again, don't get, kind of in the clouds with all these terms. And, when I was doing my research for this presentation, I noticed that it's very overwhelming on the web these days with all the amounts of information, and most of it is targeted to online. Now you'll see in the back here, I have one of my old school, textbooks from college where I learned about all of this stuff. So some of the definitions in the beginning were pulled from that book because to me, they were more of the probably the most defined definitions, and I wasn't able to find those online. So sometimes going back to our books and, other, not just college textbooks or other types of textbooks, but just books in general, right? To learn more about this, because marketing sounds so overwhelming and, oh my gosh, it's all these things. And how do we get this to people that are going to buy it? But really what it is how are you going to bring the people, right? The buyers and the sellers together. That's what this is. So when we think of promotion, if your target market through your research, you've identified that maybe it's a younger segment, maybe it's 25 to 44, then, or maybe it's 18 to 25. We need to make sure that we're where those consumers are. So Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, more of a younger consumer base, right? Now, if we're looking for a different set of, our target market looks differently, we're going to be on different places. So think about not only, yes, we've got this great product, how do I get it to the end user, but where do I need to be to communicate my brand and influence those brand decisions? That's a big part, because if your target market is 18 to 25 and you're not on TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat, right? We're missing the boat, because those are when we look at statistics, right? When you do research, those are where all of our, a lot of that age group, they love those social media platforms, right? They engage in it. They love it. Right. So we need to be where they're loving things, right? We need our brand in front of those people when they are doing what they do, right? On these social media sites or anything that's relative, right? It doesn't have to be social media. It could be local events in town that is aimed to that target. It could be webinars, educational, that's aimed to connecting with that target market. Okay. So promotion, of course, is a part of marketing, but it's not the only thing. These other areas are very important as well. And we're going to look at some tactics here in just a second as well to kind of give you an idea of what we mean by that. Now, people, we've covered this. This is very important. So when we're interacting with people, when they call us, when they text us, right? Because texting is a big thing today. How do we interact with them? What do we say when they send us a Facebook message, right? An email, whatever that means. How do we communicate with them in terms of just basic communication? Again, selective perception, remember that in the back of our head, is just because we communicate the way we do doesn't mean that they understand what we're saying, because of their perspective, right? Their experience have shaped who they are. So we want to tell them exactly what to expect. So with our people, maybe we have a brand promise, right? We respond in 24 hours. I know companies that have that. If you have a problem with a product, you're going to have a response within 24 hours. Others, if, and like when they do that, when they have that and they call the customer service team and the customer service team is horrible, how do you think they're going to feel, right? Or if they call that customer service team and the customer service team is all over it, the 1-800 number's got it, got a new product ordered, email's already in their inbox, it's already being shipped. They're like, wow, it's already shipped. I just talked to them. This is crazy. They're going to remember that experience, right? They're going to remember how you made them feel. So keep that in mind with marketing. It's not just what we have to offer, but how are you making these people feel? Because if they don't feel good about when they interact with your brand, they're not as likely to buy from you. So we want them to feel special, right? We want them to know that they're getting something from us that maybe they can't get from somebody, or they're not going to do it as well. So your people are a huge part of this. Training, making sure they know what to say, making sure they're in alignment with not only your mission and your vision, as well as your value statements. Because if you value building a relationship, right, and getting to know your clients, but then your customer service team talks to them like, oh, hey, what do you want? That's not really the same messaging, right? We're not really communicating that message that we want to communicate. That message is not being communicated, right? So our people are an important part of this process, and not just how they say and what they say, but how they look and how they interact, right, with the end user, because that is where, I'm sure most of us have heard horror stories about an experience, or maybe we've been there in a bad experience. You remember that bad experience, right? Now, if it was exceptionally well, you're also going to, that exceptionally well customer experience, you're going to remember that as well. So just something to think about is not just, hey, what am I selling and where am I going to promote it, right? But who's talking to my customers, right? And what is the process and how do they get in touch with customer service? Remember back in the day, I don't know if y'all remember this, but with like Amazon and some of these other sites, I could never talk to someone if I had a question, right? It was all through a chat mechanism, right? But it was a very efficient chat, and to me that was, at the time back in the day, and I know it's changed now, but then it was like, wow, I can't talk to anyone, right? But it was very efficient. So I was okay with that because I gave up something for something else. And that's just an example, right? With the people, this is a very important part of your marketing message and your brand. So please make sure they understand what you are out to do, your mission, your vision, your values, and they adhere to that and communicate that message and make your, customers feel special. Process is, and again, overlap, right? Don't worry about that. Just understand that the process is how everything flows. And, when, a lot of the things and people could go with process, right? Again, that's why this can be a little confusing and overwhelming. Process to me is really all those things that make up the business. So in terms of, that initial, like say you're a service business and you set up that first initial consultation, what's that process look like? How is the customer, communicated? How do they receive a notification? When they are waiting for their product, or their service, how long do they have to wait? What does that look like? If they're trying to make a purchase, what is our follow-up in our sales side? And we haven't even gone into that with marketing. Sales is a part of marketing. And what is our sales process? Sorry about that. With communicating our brand with our salespeople. And then what is that? Because if we have salespeople that are out there that aren't maybe doing what we need them to do, right? Maybe there's a part of our process that's broken. So I hope that makes sense. I know that was a lot. And then physical evidence is just that leftover, that tangible clue of what's left over. You could also see this as packaging. That is listed in several different sites online. Physical evidence, anything that's left. So that could be like surroundings when you walk into somewhere. The website that's left, right? Because, they still can go and see and view and look at that, as well as uniforms, online reviews, downloads or guides that maybe that you've sent them, right? That's some other evidence of your brand and your messaging that you're trying to communicate. So I know that was a lot on the 7 Ps. And here's an example. Now I got this offline and you can see the source here at the bottom. I just wanted something that, not an endorsement or anything of this source, but just something I found that I thought, oh, this is simple. So this is McDonald's. I know that most of us, even though we may not eat there, we know about McDonald's, right? We've heard of them. We know their brand. So it's put the 7 Ps into an example. So we have product. What do they have? Well, they have vegetable and non-veggie menu items, beverages, frozen desserts, even though most, some would say, maybe they have healthier options now, right? So you could take this out and make it a lot more complicated. Price, very affordable. In this, psychological pricing, cost leader, they're affordable, right? Now, place, they've got locations, they've got drive-ins, they've also added apps, right? So it's a little different than probably when this was created. People, fast and friendly. Process, transparent to consumers. They have the same process in every McDonald's, even though some are franchised, they have, that's the process, right? This is how we do it. This is how we make this meal, this drink. It's the same process. Also, they are uniformly represented in terms of how they look. Physical evidence, their social media, their buildings, their mascots, right? The little things that you get. Now they're putting out a flyer about their new app. And then promotion. How do they promote? And I know we've seen their advertising. So this is the 7 Ps in action. I know that's a lot, right? And again, don't worry about, maybe some overlap in this. This is all about just thinking of your product and how you're going to communicate it to your, target consumer. And guess what, guys? It is poll time. So I know that was a lot of information. Cassidy, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to you. Or I'm sorry, she may just pop up the chat.
I am on for Cassidy. She had to take off, but
Okay,
let's
thank you,
see.
Kelly. So Kelly's got us hooked up and we are for time gonna kind of run through this real quickly. So look, okay, we've got, y'all know it. Marketplace, online store, social media, very good. It is place. Nice. And then our next question, we'll go ahead and y'all are doing great on that. You can see at the bottom there, the design, quality, features, and functions are examples of what. So y'all did great. You did a great job. I know it's a lot, but y'all did very well on that. Okay, and then we have our next poll question coming up. And that's going to be based on design, quality, features, functions, and so forth. And my good times, technical issues, the poll just went away for me. So I don't know what you are putting, but the answer for this question is product. So product is all those features of the product, right? So quickly, we're going to go. Oh, there's our poll. It just popped back in here. There we go. So importance of marketing. This is something we're not going to have time to go through all of these, but when you get the presentation, please take a chance to go through this. A couple that I'm just going to point out because we are running out of time is Digital Examiner. 93% of consumers use internet resources to find local businesses. That should say a lot, right? So if we are not online and can't be found, we need to be online. It's a different world. We have to be available where our target consumers are. Another powerful statistic on this page is 1 in 5 small businesses don't utilize marketing and 1 in 10 don't invest in any kind of marketing. To me, that's an opportunity. That says there are others that are not taking advantage of it. If I do it, I'm already ahead of my competition. So keep that in mind. Another big one that I really like on this page is that outbound engine one at the bottom. Increasing customer retention by 5% can increase profits from 25 to 95%. Again, initially, we're not going to have, because we're just building our customer base, but part of our marketing needs to be how we're communicating and interacting with our current clients and going forward. And then this is, some more stats. The very powerful one on this page that stands out to me is 51% of shoppers surveyed say they use Google to research a purchase they plan to make online. Wow, we've got to be in that space, right? We've got to be there when they're searching. And Statista is 90. This is a very powerful stat. 99% of 18 to 29-year-olds in the United States are internet users. And then over 65 is 75%. Our people are actually absolutely online. So we need to make sure that we're there and we can convey our message to those folks online. Now we have kind of our quick Q&A session. And I don't see, Kelly, do you see any chat questions? I don't see that we have any new ones here.
I don't see any yet.
Okay, perfect. That's good because we're running on time. So here is this just what is in a marketing plan. And this is where a lot of folks kind of like, oh, great. We talked about some of the basics, right? But what is in the plan? What does that mean? Remember all these fancy terms. Marketing plan is literally just what we're going to do, how we're going to get there, and when we're going to do it. That's it. And who is going to own, right? Who's going to own that part of the process and who's doing what. But that's really it. And when we think of strategy, think of sorry, excuse me, it's pollen. When we think of strategy, think about our bigger, to me, it is a very specific goal, but to others, it could be very generic. But when we're thinking about your strategy for your business, we've done our research, right? We've looked at industry, we've looked at our competitors, we've looked at the product, we looked at pricing, we figured out why we're better. Now, how are we going to get it to the people that actually not only need and want it, but also can buy it, right? And have that willingness and ability to purchase it. So this is kind of an example for just illustration purposes of some tactics. So that strategy is our bigger picture, long-term. And then our tactics are, what are the steps that will get us to achieve that goal? They're, broken down, smaller smaller things to actually lead up to that bigger, hey, we're going to hit the strategy or the goal. A lot of these, you're going to see some more, newer types of tactics compared to, as well as more traditional. And the one thing that you're going to see first on this page is the networking and the community involvement. And that is one that I really, and I know we're running out of time, so please review these. But that is one of the big things as a new business owner. We need to be in front of people talking about what we have to offer, communicating that brand. Networking, community involvement can be a low cost, usually mostly takes your time. So I would highly advise, depending on your product or service, right, that you are part of and are participating in those types of events to get your brand message out there. And then you can see all these other things. All of these things are a way to market. Everything we've talked about is marketing, right? Simplistic terms, bringing buyers and sellers together. What you have to do as a new business owner is, how do I identify who I'm going after? What message am I trying to communicate? And, are they going to hear that what I'm trying to communicate, right? So I've got to tell them what I wanted them to hear, right? And what am I going to use to get to them? That's our big question. So, and this, again, this is a lot of options there. This is not a comprehensive list. We could go on for days about the specific tactics. Now, if this were in a marketing plan, we would be a lot more specific, but this is just for illustration. So for example, with that networking one, it would be, I'm going to, for the business owner, attend 4 networking groups per month, right? Involving 1 community event per month, after we've kind of worked through our plan. So this would be more specific, but for our time here, I wanted it to be generic. So you could just see any really thing that you can think of that we've talked about. It's marketing. It's marketing, bringing buyers and sellers together. So real quick, we're going to do this. I know we got 1 more minute. I want to make sure that I'm very aware of y'all's time and get us out of here on time. So our last poll is, which of these are marketing? And there's a lot of things listed. So if y'all want to take a second and kind of guess, and I have no idea where my poll went, y'all. So I think the pollen has reached my computer. So here we go. Oh no, I think it's the old one. That's okay, no worries. So I think I'm having some technical issues over here, but on this question, it's literally every one of these. Every one of these is marketing. How are we going to charge it? What are we offering? Where are we going to sell it? What tactics are we going to use? What's our strategy? What does our brand represent, right? All of these things are marketing. How do I start? Now, this is going to be in your packets. Of course, there's some resources, or not your packets, in the email that you received with the presentation. And these are some resources. There's resources throughout this document to help you on your marketing journey. There's also free resources such as Startup Junkie and the Arkansas Technology and Development Center. And of course, there are options like myself and my, our company here, Comprehensive Consulting, to hire a business consultant to actually walk you through building a marketing plan. It's very beneficial when you work with someone that has experience with this and knows, okay, well, maybe this is what has happened in the results, storytelling. I've had this customer, we tried this is what this has worked, and so forth, because some of that you're going to have to do it, on your own, right? Learning. So having that third party to help you can be a huge benefit. So again, this will be in your email. We don't have time for chat questions. I don't think, or do we have any? Okay. Yeah. We had an issue with the poll. No worries. Thank you so much, Kelly. And
Tim mentioned that if the importance of having an online presence wasn't really a question. He just mentioned the importance of having an online presence, because if you don't have your own, somebody else will make one for you.
Yes, that's so true. Yes, and that's absolutely right. All of this we got to be found where our customers are, and that is online, as those stats showed. So that's a great point, Kelly. And then I'm going to end with this. And, again, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Kelly, Cassidy, the Fayetteville Public Library, for pulling this together. Thank you for all of your attendance. Sorry, we were running a little short on time and I sound like Kermit. We have one more session coming up in August for recruiting. So hopefully there will be no pollen in the air at that time. But this is one of my favorite quotes. Complaining about a problem without posing a solution is called whining. And the reason this is one of my favorites is because not everything's going to work perfectly. Marketing is a trial and error, especially when you first get started. You're not going to have, oh, this is perfect and everything went perfectly well. It's a learning, right? So we can't complain about it not working and, oh, well, it didn't work, I'm never going to do it again. That's absolutely the wrong approach to marketing. It's what you didn't work, right? So maybe we've got to try something else. We've got to work on something different to make sure that we're getting our brand message communicated in the way that we want to and influencing those purchasing decisions. So thank y'all again. Thank you, Kelly and Cassidy and the Fayetteville Public Library and everybody on the call. Really appreciate your time today. Again, my name is Mollie Watkins with Comprehensive Consulting Solutions for Small Businesses. And I appreciate the opportunity to present this to you today. And I hope it was, informative and enjoyable. And again, please join us for our next session in August. And Kelly, I'll pass it over to you for any closing remarks.
All right. Thank you so much, Mollie, for doing this. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. This was a very, very informative session. And Mollie, if you will send the slides to Cassidy or me, we can send them out to everyone who registered.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, Kelly and Cassie. I appreciate all y'all's help and the Fayetteville Public Library for having sessions like this. We really appreciate y'all.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye, guys. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.